I'm Musa Syeed, writer-director of Valley of Saints.
My name is Nicholas Bruckman, and I'm the producer of Valley of Saints.
So the film is really about these two friends in Kashmir, in a conflict zone in northern India, who are trying to escape the conflict, escape the war, escape the poverty that they've grown up with all their lives. And but as they're trying to make their escape, there's a military curfew that traps them on their home on this very beautiful lake community. And over the course of the curfew, they meet this woman who's doing research on the lake.
And the film revolves around the relationship between this young man who wants to escape and this Kashmiri American outsider who's studying his home and what's happening to it. And as they get to know each other, he begins to see her point of view on why his homeland is worth saving from an ecological standpoint.
My family grew up in Kashmir, or my parents were born in Kashmir and were married in Kashmir and came to America where I was born. But what I knew about Kashmir growing up was very little because we never really went back there, but they would talk a lot about the beauty of Kashmir, and everywhere we would go in the world, other than Kashmir was never as beautiful as Kashmir was in their minds. So that was always sort of, in my mind, and I wanted to go back and to make a film and tell a story about Kashmir that was different, but that was also true to sort of my parents' memories. And when I actually got to finally go, I was really, impressed by this community of people that have made their homes inside of the lake, either living on boats or on islands in the lake, and that their livelihoods really depend on the lake, but at the same time they sort of threaten its existence by living there, by polluting it, by taking up lake space. Because I had cast Gulzar, who's an actual boatman on the lake, as the main actor, because I wanted someone who would give the film a sense of authenticity and legitimacy, and as a real boatman I thought he brought that, and he also just had this very sort of sensitive soul and good intuition. But then I had hired Afzal, who's a journalist, to sort of help him with the dialogue and to help me translate the dialogue into Kashmiri language. And just through the rehearsal process, they had this really interesting chemistry, and these two people had never met each other before. But when I saw that happening, I was like, this has to be in the film somehow, and I knew that the romance element was always going to be there, and I thought that this could be a good counterpoint to that you have these two friends that are so close, and seeing male friendships in Kashmir for me was very different from the way that I interact with my male friends here, because they're very, very close, and if you're just walking down the street, then someone will hold your hand, and you'll walk hand in hand with your male friend, and it just, to a lot of Western audiences, it's very strange, I guess, in these sort of platonic relationships, but the closeness of that relationship and how it ties back to their childhood and ties back to the things that they've seen throughout their lives growing up in Kashmir would be a good counterpoint to this romance with this outsider, Asifa, the scientist who comes from the outside and doesn't have that same frame of reference that these two friends have, having seen the things that they've seen growing up in this conflict zone. There's a lot of tragic stories coming out of Kashmir and out of similar regions that are undergoing conflict or transition. So I wanted to tell a story that did have some measure of hope, especially because this film, I'm American ostensibly, but I also wanted to produce the film for Kashmiri audiences there and to tell a story that they haven't heard about themselves before, and to tell a story that did have some optimism. So it is about remembering what Kashmir was, but at the same time understanding that we can still nurture what is there for the future. And I think even just the way that people deal with and talk about the conflict in Kashmir is often with humor, and that's something that we wanted to put into the film, because usually what you see, the images you see are militants, or you see women crying at funerals, or you see people throwing rocks, and we have some of those images in the film, but we wanted to sort of present a more holistic experience of what it means to live in this place and to still hold on to your humanity, which is a lot of times through humor. And Kashmiris can be very funny people, especially when they talk about the conflict, and so there is some sort of morbid or dark humor in the film that the characters share with each other, but it's still very funny and something that they can laugh at. And through the laughter, I think they show their ability to be resilient and to endure. What I think the film wants people to know is that there is still life and there's still beauty amidst the destruction and death of the conflict, that people still persevere and people are still resilient amidst all these problems. And that's what the film is really trying to not tell a political story or not tell a story about conflict, but a story about resilience and a story about life and beauty.
What's been really exciting is seeing audiences respond to the movie in general. We were really thrilled when the film won the Audience Award at Sundance, because I think even until the last moment when we got into Sundance and we knew we had a good film, we still thought maybe this is something only Kashmiri people will get or only Kashmiri people will like, and that turned out not to be the case. It obviously has resonated, and I think a lot of the issues that are about, we thought might have been about hope for Kashmir, I think are really much broader feelings of hope that the film conveys for not just conflicts in general, but the way we treat each other in our personal lives and the way we treat our environment.
The film, we hope, will gain a lot of attention for Kashmiris and for Dal Lake in particular, and can maybe motivate people and mobilize people to be interested in the environment in Kashmir and to understand how the conflict has affected it. But beyond getting this awareness out there, we wanted to create some kind of tool that could really help people on the ground in Kashmir create a community around environmental stewardship. And so we were lucky enough to participate in the Bay Area Video Coalition's Producers Institute for New Media Technologies last summer, where we developed a Facebook game which would basically encourage Kashmiri youth to partake in real-life environmental actions and then share them through a Facebook game. Oftentimes there are curfews and strikes which don't allow people to meet in real life, and so we want to take this community to the virtual plane and allow people to interact there on this very specific issue of environmental activism. The success of the film leveraged that into making that a reality, so that we can actually hopefully make some change on the ground there as well.
But it is playing, I think, over the course of the year at kind of every major film festival in every continent, and hopefully in most of the cities in the U.S. And from there, we are hoping to launch U.S. distribution and do a theatrical release. In the meantime, the best way is to like our Facebook page, which is VOS Film. You can just search Valley of Saints on Facebook and be a fan like us.